innocent quality of his gaze, which was intent but unthreatening. He spoke again, cocking his head to one side, and in a pidgin of Bulgarian, English, and German, we established that I was American, that I had been in his city for a few weeks and would stay at least a year, that I was a teacher at the American college, that my name was more or less unpronounceable in his language. Throughout our halting conversation, there was no acknowledgement of the strange location of our encounter or of the uses to which it was almost exclusively put, so that speaking to him I felt an anxiety made up of equal parts desire and unease at the mystery of his presence and purpose. There was a third man there as well, who entered and exited the farthest stall several times, looking earnestly at us but never approaching or speaking a word. Finally, after we had reached the end of our introductions, and after this third man entered his stall again, closing the door behind him, Mitko, as I knew him now, pointed toward him and gave me a look of great significance, saying, "Iska, he wants," and then making a lewd gesture, the meaning of which was clear. Both he and his companion, whom he referred to as Bratmi, and who hadn't spoken since I arrived, laughed at this, looking at me as if to include me in the joke, though, of course, I was as much an object of their ridicule as the man listening to them from inside his stall. I was so eager to be one of their party that almost without thinking I smiled and wagged my head from side to side in the gesture that signifies here both agreement or affirmation and a certain wonder at the vagaries of the world. But I saw in the glance they exchanged that this attempt to associate with them only increased the distance between us. Wanting to regain my footing, and after pausing to arrange the necessary syllables in my head which seldom, despite these efforts, emerge as they should, even now, when I'm told that I speak hubovo and pravilno, when I see surprise at my proficiency in a language that hardly anyone bothers to learn who hasn't learned it already, I asked him what he was doing there, in that chill room with its impression of damp. Above us it felt like summer still. The plaza was full of light and people, some of them riding skateboards or inline skates or elaborately tricked-out bicycles, the same age as these men. Mitko looked at his friend, whom he referred to as his brother, although they were not brothers, and then the friend moved toward the outer door and Mitko drew his wallet out of his back pocket. He opened it and took out a small square packet of glossy paper, a page torn from a magazine and folded over many times. He unfolded this page carefully, his hand shaking slightly, balancing it to keep whatever loose material was inside from falling to the dampness and filth on which we stood. I guessed what he would reveal, of course. My only surprise was at how little he had, a mere crumble of leaves. 10 leva, he said, and then added that he and his friend and I, the three of us, might smoke it together. He didn't seem disappointed when I refused this offer. He just folded his page up carefully again and replaced it in his pocket. But he didn't leave, either, as I had feared he might. I wanted him to stay. Even though over the course of our conversation, which moved in such fits and starts and which couldn't have lasted more than 5 or 10 minutes, it had become difficult to imagine the desire I increasingly felt for him having any prospect of satisfaction. For all his friendliness, as we spoke, he had seemed in some mysterious way to withdraw from me. The longer we avoided any erotic proposal, the more finely he seemed unattainable, not so much because he was beautiful, although I found him beautiful, as for some still more forbidding quality, a kind of bodily sureness or ease that suggested freedom from doubts and self-gnawing, from any squeamishness about existence. He had about him a sense simply of accepting his right to a measure of the world's beneficence, even as so clearly it had been withheld him. He looked at his friend, who hadn't moved to rejoin us after Mitko hid away his tiny stash, and after they exchanged another glance, the friend turned his back to us, not so much guarding the door anymore, I felt, as offering us a certain privacy. Mitko looked at me again, friendly still, but with a new intensity, and then he tilted his head slightly and moved one hand over his crotch. I couldn't help but look down, of course, as I couldn't restrain the excitement, I'm sure.